Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Thank you so much for joining me on episode 361 here, where we are going to dive into the season, I'm going to say season, not series, finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi. More on that later. In fact, I'll talk about actually the last two episodes since I was out of town last week when episode 5 or part 5 aired. So I'll talk briefly about that, but I really want to get into the finale, which I just watched again for the second time tonight. I'm recording this on Wednesday night, so the day it came out. Watched it this morning, watched it again tonight. Man, it's it. So I will get to all that, but I wanted to just hit some news first, obviously, and catch up a little bit on what I missed over the week while I was in Disneyland. Took the kids and the wife to California this time. We're normally Disney World travelers and visitors. That's kind of our home park, I would say. Go there every year, but this time we wanted to try something new. We went to Disneyland. Took the girls there for the first time and really enjoyed it. It was actually a lot better than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be kind of a miniature version of Disney World, which technically it is, but it does have its own unique qualities. It has another park called California Adventure that's got by far the best roller coaster I've been on, called the Incredicoaster. Not sure if anybody listening has ridden it, but it is incredible. No pun intended. And of course, Galaxy's Edge is there. Went and visited Batuu. Saw Boba Fett and Fennec walking around. They just officially started walking around Batuu. Got a picture with them with the kids. That was pretty cool because, when he spoke, he has Tamara Morrison's voice print on there. So, it sounded straight out of the movie and he looked fantastic. So that was really, really cool. Of course, my daughter saw Chewbacca, her favorite character. He gave her a big hug and stuff like that. Just, melts you as a father, seeing her love for Chewbacca and how much he embraces the kids around there. That was pretty special. Always special seeing that. And then I actually did build a Disneyland Droid because sometimes you can see behind me if you're watching on YouTube. Kind of getting out of the way, but right there are a couple of my daughter's droids. That's my daughter Sam's. That's my daughter Eliza's. That new one right there, that black one right there, is the one I just built in Disneyland. And then over here, you can see my blue one there, my other blue one from Disney World, and then that one's my wife's R2 unit. So anyway, we got 5 of them now over the course of a few years. But I wanted to bring something back from there, and I didn't want to build another lightsaber because I want to keep my one lightsaber, my lightsaber that I built already from Disney World. But I almost, my intent was to really think about buying some of those legacy sabers. I really want to buy a Leia one and the Luke one, Luke's actual saber from Return of the Jedi. So I will get those one day. I didn't want to pack them up and bring them all the way back. I'll get them in Florida at some point, but those are the 2 sabers I really want, and to display them probably at my work office. But anyway, long story short, that was a great trip. Glad to be back, and I did watch Obi-Wan episode 5 or part 5 Wednesday morning out there in California. But I haven't had a chance to really talk about it. We talked about it on the Mandalore podcast. So if you want to hear a big, long 3-hour episode of me and Martin diving into part 5. If you haven't already, go check that out, the Mandalore podcast. But and we'll be deep diving into part 6 this weekend as well. But of course, I'm going to give my review of it on this show. So, but before we get into that, of course, I want to thank my patrons still, as always, for supporting the show. And like I said on the last episode, got a lot of stuff in the works. Got a shop that I'm working on, and going to put out some really cool T-shirts and some other merchandise. So hopefully you get into that stuff if you want. And got some other reviews and some contributions coming from Hannah and Corey. They're working on some stuff too. So got a lot more content coming out for you guys, as well as, keeping the show going and all the other shows that we've got. So again, thank you. Truly thank you. Okay, so 3 things I want to just pop in here real fast that I've read the past few days. One is a little more of a clear timeline as far as the High Republic goes. If you guys haven't been up on that, Phase 2 is closely coming to a start here. The first novel of it is Convergence by Cador, by Zoraida Cordova, and that book was supposed to come out October 4th to kick off Phase 2, but now that book is now coming out on November 15th. So this is the first adult novel of Phase 2. And it seems like the end date is in May, with Cavan Scott's adult novel. Actually, it's a young adult novel called Path of Vengeance. So Path of Vengeance, which comes out May 2nd, 2023, will be the end of Phase 2. Now, I haven't gotten into, obviously none of us have gotten into Phase 2, but what we know about it so far is that it's set even further back than Phase 1 of the High Republic. We're talking 150 years, I believe, before Phase 1, which was 200 years before Episode 1. So we're talking 350 years before Episode 1 is when Phase 2 happens. So obviously, I'm not familiar why they would go back that far, as kind of a continuation of Phase 1, but maybe it's a completely different story. Maybe it's somehow connected. I don't know. But I'm not fully done with Phase 1. So hopefully I'll get through those and get to Phase 2 when this comes out. But that is the change that I'm reading. So it's a short phase. Phase 1 was pretty much all of 2021 and then into obviously 2022. So I believe the pandemic probably had a little bit to do with that, but looks like Phase 2 is going to be a lot quicker. And then there's obviously Phase 3 that will wrap up this, what we know right now would wrap up this High Republic series. So more to come on that. I'm assuming that would start then next summer, 2023, and maybe wrap by early 2024. So anyway, there's that. High Republic news. Okay, a couple rumors just want to pass out there and throw my thoughts on. One is the possibilities now of an Obi-Wan season 2. As most of you have probably been aware of on social, there's been I feel like a mixed reaction to the show in the beginning. People were excited to see Anakin / Hayden, Vader, of course, the Grand Inquisitor, Obi-Wan, Owen. I think we obviously knew the possibility of a Leia being in this series, but not to the extent that she was. So I think that was surprising for people. But ultimately, there was some mixed reactions, obviously, with the Reva character and the lack of seeing Hayden as Anakin. I think a lot of people wanted more flashbacks. But, and it started becoming of a, why did they even hire him if he's just going to be in a Vader suit the whole time? So I think a lot of those things were being said, tossed around the first part of the season until we get to obviously episode 5 and episode 6, the last 2 episodes. I feel like I've read a lot more positive comments about the series, a lot more people being more satisfied with the answers they're getting. So, of course, the popularity and the viewership that Obi-Wan has gotten on Disney Plus apparently has led to a lot of discussions with whether or not to bring the cast back and do another season. Now, I would love it. Obi-Wan has definitely been my favorite show so far, and I feel like the best show so far. I think they knocked it out of the park. Ewan McGregor is just, there's nothing more you can say. He's phenomenal as Obi-Wan. He is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hayden is Darth Vader, in my book. These guys, of course, with James Earl Jones, these guys are flawless in the understanding of these characters and the portrayal of these characters. Deborah Chow did phenomenal. I'm glad they stuck with one director, to do this series, as opposed to, different directors. It was great that she was able to tell this story. So I just had a fantastic time watching it, and I think a lot of people have done it as well. So the possibilities of a second season, it sounds like the rumbling is happening. Now, I don't think a second season would necessarily bring back Leia or even Luke. I think it would have to be Obi-Wan on a completely different story and not involve any of these characters. So I don't even think you would have to worry about bringing back. Honestly, I don't even think you bring back Hayden. I think you have a whole new cast, but you bring some familiar characters back. I was texting with Corey tonight because he was freaking out watching it for the first time, and we started talking about the possibilities of a season 2, and I thought, well, the only thing you can do, to be honest, in my opinion, the only thing you can do for a second season is somehow incorporate Darth Maul, which would be phenomenal, right? I think everybody would want to see that. Because if you think about it, so Solo happens a year before this, where we know that he's in charge of Crimson Dawn. But we don't know is how he goes from the end of Solo to all of a sudden being found on Malachor. I believe it was Malachor. And which happens about what is it? Maybe a year before episode 4. So, let me make sure that it's Malachor. Yeah, it's Malachor. So, I think that takes place roughly a year before episode 4. So, you're talking 8 years from this point in Obi-Wan. So at some point, Maul ends up on Malachor, where Ezra and Kanan and Ahsoka find him. What happened in that time? What happened in that downfall? How did he end up there? Maybe it has to do with Obi-Wan. Maybe that story is going to get told through Obi-Wan, because I definitely think that that's possible. The hate and the anger and the revenge that Maul is seeking in Rebels, and what he's going through trying to find Obi-Wan. I just don't think. I think it's possible that it just didn't manifest from the Clone Wars. Still, there was another incident that happened that causes Maul to, increase his hate and go after him, and ultimately perish at the hands of Obi-Wan on Tatooine. But before all that, I think there's a story there. There's definitely a story there. I think he can leave Tatooine at some point, not be involved with the Empire, not be involved with Vader, so it doesn't disrupt that timeline of him not being discovered until A New Hope. But he can definitely go out there and cross paths with Maul, and I think there's a good opportunity to get him hooked back up with Ahsoka. Ahsoka's out there still too, right? So I think that could be a hell of a season 2, just right there with those 3 characters. Then of course you introduce new ones. You could bring back a Roken, because Roken seems like he's going to be around for a while. I think it wasn't a coincidence that he said that line, just getting started. So I think we're going to see him in more stories, possibly more series. So yeah, that's where I think my initial head would go if there was going to be a season 2. So we'll see. But the other thought is, and I believe, I can't find it right now, but I believe I saw a rumor about this. But the reason why you don't bring Vader back for a season 2 of Obi-Wan is because you give Vader his own series. Let's get Hayden on a series and see Vader, maybe not even at this point. Maybe it's before this. Maybe it's him hunting Jedi and starting the Inquisitor program. That would be really cool. Or kind of just interpreting what's in the comics. I know a lot of the comics kind of filled in Vader. So maybe you don't do that, but there's a lot there with his castle on Mustafar. There's a lot there about his feelings still for Padme and his desires to try to bring her back. So like I said, I think there's a story there too, and the popularity that I think Hayden is receiving just demands it. Let's get Hayden back. Let's get a live action Vader series. I think everybody's ready for that. So I think that's a rumor I read. I'm not sure, but I think that's definitely a possibility. So anyway, 2 shows there that we can get it, that possibly we can be getting, or one new show Vader and then one extended season of Obi-Wan. Be pretty cool. I think everybody be up for that. The other rumor show that's starting to get the rounds is a live action version of Jedi Fallen Order, basically, starring Cal Kestis, starring Cameron Monaghan, who plays Cal Kestis in the game Jedi Fallen Order. And Survivor, the game that's coming out next year. So apparently that's what's in the works as well. That seems like it's a pretty big rumor right now. Is that he would be cast in a live action version? Totally all for that as well. Think that is awesome. I think he's a brilliant actor. It would work so well to be a live action series. Is it? I mean, it would have to be a continuation of the game, I would think. It seems like I believe Jedi Fallen Order takes place about 5 years after episode 3. Survivor is going to take place about 5 years after that, so 10 years after, which is right at the time of Obi-Wan. So you could do a live action series that continues whatever's happening in Survivor. That would be a way to do it, I think. So, yeah, so I like that rumor. I think that's a high possibility. I think I'm all for that. Definitely. Can't wait to see that. That would be pretty cool. Totally cool. Be all for that. So anyway, that's all the rumors. That's all the stuff that's out there news-wise that I saw. Not a lot. I think, as Obi-Wan comes to a close now and kind of gets less and less talked about over the next week, I think we're going to start seeing some ramped up content for Andor, which happens just in two short months here, at the end of August. So, got a lot to get ready for that. Got some promos to talk about. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out for that. And then, of course, Bad Batch apparently comes out, maybe a month later. So lots of Star Wars content coming the rest of this year. As speaking of content, we got novels and comic dates here I want to run through. We've got Shadow of the Sith being the next novel, and that's just coming out this coming Tuesday. So June 28th, you get your hands on that. I am so looking forward to that. Of course, that's the Luke Skywalker story with Lando as they search for Exegol. You've got Padawan, July 26th. You got Princess and the Scoundrel, August 16th. You got Convergence, which is the High Republic, the one I mentioned, moved back to November 15th. Path of Deceit. Looks like that's going to be the first Phase 2 novel that comes out, actually. That's still slated for November 1st. And then Path of Vengeance was announced to be the end of Phase 2, and that's May 2nd by Kevin Scott. Comics, this past week you had Crimson Reign number 5, so that finishes that story that came out. We'll be definitely doing a Beyond the Saga on that shortly. But also coming next week, Obi-Wan Kenobi number 2, Darth Vader 24. And then in July 6th, The Halcyon Legacy number 4. The Mandalorian number 1 finally comes out. That's July 13th with Bounty Hunters number 25. Han Solo and Chewbacca number 3 also on the 13th, as well as Dr. Aphra number 21. Star Wars 25, Darth Vader 25 on July 20th. And then later in that month, you've got Dr. Aphra 22 and Obi-Wan Kenobi number 3. So lots of great comics coming out. Definitely going to finish up reading Crimson Reign and Obi-Wan Kenobi continuing that. So lots of good stuff there. Okay. Lots of great books coming out, comics and novels. All right, let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. First off, let's talk about episode 5 or part 5. Got to say a couple things, mainly about the flashback scene. I think this is the scene that really drew everybody into the series. Like I said, I think there were a couple. There was half the fans out there that were concerned with it. That why would cast Hayden back if you're not going to see him? Let's get some flashbacks of the Clone Wars, stuff like that. But I think we got this flashback, which was before episode 2. He hasn't seen Padme again yet. The Clone Wars haven't happened yet. But I will say that, and I brought this up on the Mandalore podcast, the only thing I will say about this scene that threw me off, actually, it didn't really bother me in the end. It doesn't really bother me, but when we first see the skyline of Coruscant and the camera pulls back to reveal Anakin, I was actually at first thinking this was present day still Coruscant, that this was 10 years after Revenge during the Obi-Wan story, because if you look in the background of the skyline, you don't see any traffic. Coruscant has traffic all over the place. I'm looking at a screenshot right now of a wide shot, and there's nothing. There are occasionally some ships you can see in the background, but it's relatively quiet. Now, are they in a quiet spot of Coruscant for some reason? Like there's no traffic in this, but I just find that hard to believe that they're not just around the Jedi Temple or close to the Jedi Temple. It actually looks like the Jedi Temple when he's walking out. But there isn't really any familiarity in the background. Like you don't see the Senate building, you don't see Padme's apartment. So it does seem like a different part of Coruscant, but that part just kind of threw me off a little bit. Again, in the end, it doesn't really bother me, but when you think about Star Wars consistency, it should have looked more like it did in the prequels. But all in all, this scene was incredible, having Hayden back and them fighting each other with these type of skills that they have with the lightsabers. Very significant, obviously, to the show, to this episode, because it wasn't just a flashback just to have a flashback, but it was a flashback to tell a story between these two and how it carried over, 10 years later, or from this point, really 13 plus years later, how it affects how they're strategizing against each other at this point in the series. So it was a really cool scene. It worked. It wasn't just a fan service thing. It really worked with the show and with this episode. So on both sides, on Vader's side and on Obi-Wan's side, as they're reflecting back. Again, I do like the character Roken a lot. In the show, in this episode, he's got a lot more to show. So he was great. I think he has really shined, and O'Shea Jackson Jr. is going to play this character again, I'm pretty sure. So then, of course, you got Tala. Amazing performance by her, and, of course, a big loss that was very surprising. I hope this isn't spoilers. I hope pretty much everybody listening or watching to me has seen this series, so hopefully you're not going to be spoiled. But go watch the series and then come back if you haven't seen it. Tala, yeah, great performance. Great stuff from Leia, obviously. Haja comes back from the earlier episodes. And, you discover more about Reva's background. We actually get her motivation, her answers, which, again, satisfied a lot of fans. So I feel like they came off of her a little bit as far as, knocking her a little bit. But, her story did get fleshed out. I think you just, a 6-episode series, we're in the third act right now with these last 2 episodes. So you're going to get a lot of answers. You're going to find out characters' motivations. Of course, if the story's right. If the story is told right. And, fans may not like the answers, but that's not really, that's not really the point. The point is what the filmmakers are telling, the story they're telling, the story that they're trying to get you to buy into. So if you don't, I guess, really believe that or like that, then it's okay. It's just okay. But this is what's out there. This is the backstory that we got of hers, and I think that it works. I think it's partially a little hard to know how she survived, and then, of course, how she even survives this episode with what happens to her between her and Vader. So she's definitely resilient. She's definitely hard to kill, but she is definitely on her own mission, which I thought was pretty neat. Thought that worked. But great, again, great Vader stuff in this episode. Him grabbing the ship like Rey in Rise of Skywalker, bringing it down with ease, the finishing of the lesson between him and Anakin. And then of course Vader's fighting skills. I mean, we haven't seen Vader fight like this in live action. We've seen him cut down some rebels. We've seen him fight his son, but to do what he's been doing in this series has been pretty awesome to watch. So, episode 5, part 5 was really good. Really enjoyed it. Really set up a very highly anticipated finale with, of course, this episode 5 ending with that shot of Luke sleeping. I mean, we know that the finale is going to take place on Tatooine somehow. So it left everybody kind of wondering in the week. But today we finally got the finale. And I was ecstatic over it. Just got to say. I am 100% all over this series. Love this series. There's not much that I would have changed with it, to be honest. I mean, I think a lot of people obviously have their issues with it. Some minor, some extreme, but there's nothing, seriously, nothing I don't think I would change about this thing. Obi-Wan's a broken person, and he needs this series to kind of bring him back to where he was in episode 4. Because in episode 4, even though maybe he hasn't been fighting, at all, but he seemed pretty strong in the Force and up with his lightsaber skills. So we had to see that, or we had to see how that came about. Could he have just, obviously we assumed that he continued his training this whole entire 19 years. But as we saw in the first episode, he's walked away from the Force. He's hiding. He's not trying to use it. He's not trying to draw any attention. But now he's out in the open again, and he's even dressing as a Jedi again, which is surprising. But he is Obi-Wan now. He is back as Obi-Wan. So we got obviously the epic showdown between him and Vader, which was phenomenal. It's not two old guys fighting. It's two guys in, past their prime, but definitely powerful and skilled and agile still. Again, Vader being very agile in his suit in this was really cool to see. And the power that they both displayed with the Force, throwing rocks and taking the hits. And I'm telling you, the way Obi-Wan is portrayed in this fight, he is not arguably anymore one of the best Jedis. He is possibly the best Jedi, and probably is the best Jedi ever to live. He obviously outlived everybody besides Luke, who, didn't outlive Yoda, but Yoda definitely hasn't done anything in the last, 19 years plus before he passes. But what Obi-Wan has faced, he's faced, he's faced Sith, Maul, and then now Vader, over all these years. So, he's pretty dang good, to be able to do what he did in this episode, and the turnaround that we've seen him grow over these last 5 episodes. So loved it. Loved the, look, the girl playing Leia, I think her name is Vivian. But man, what a star, what a portrayal. She was just phenomenal. Trying to make sure I get her. Can't believe I didn't remember her name. But she is, man, she stole the show. Again, I think, Vivian Elira Blair. Now, she, didn't, in my opinion, didn't take away the story of Obi-Wan. In fact, it really just added to it. Her interactions with him, his desire to tell her about her parents and the qualities, but held back on that, until the end. He wanted her to understand, where she came from, but just couldn't do it. And you saw that struggle with her during the middle of the series, where she knew that he knew who her parents were. She wanted to know, because she struggled a little bit about being an Organa. But this journey was really good for her as well. I mean, it really is moving when you watch them two together, Leia and Obi-Wan. It's really touching, knowing, because I even mentioned it to my wife this past week, because she was asking about, did Obi-Wan know Leia, or knew that she was, Anakin's kids? Now, or she asking if Anakin knew he had kids. Now, granted, she's not huge into Star Wars, so she forgets some of these things, but I told her, no, they hid the kids. Vader doesn't know until later, but Obi-Wan was there. Obi-Wan was there when they were born. I mean, that's pretty massive there, right there. And now he's seeing them as 10-year-olds. Leia, meeting Luke. That's just crazy. It's just crazy to think in the context of Star Wars universe, him being there for their birth, but then not truly meeting them until they're 10 years old. Now, he was keeping his eye on Luke, so he kind of saw him, but he had never seen Leia. So that was just really cool to see, and see their reactions to each other, and how much they end up caring for each other at the end. I mean, it's emotional. It definitely is emotional. Knowing how these characters and what they, especially Leia, what we know that she grows up to. It'd just be a whole different experience if you had not seen, anything else with Leia. Like, if we didn't have the original trilogy, if we didn't have the sequel trilogy, if we didn't have these stories in between, I mean, the impact of not knowing Leia's future would be a whole different viewing experience. So the fact that we have all of that just makes this so much more significant, and really moving, because she represented the older Leia in a younger form flawlessly. It's phenomenal. And I think that it really elevated the show. So, loved those scenes with her and Obi-Wan in this. And then, of course, we do see Hayden during the fight. Very similar to what happened in Rebels, when Ahsoka, struck Vader's helmet at that point. I'm seeing nothing but great tweets and stuff regarding the voice, the mix between Hayden and James Earl Jones. I mean, that was perfect also. Loved that. But that's tragic too, you could see it in Obi-Wan's face when he sees Anakin's face. And he still, referred to him as Anakin until that last line there. But just a great performance again by him, by Ewan. Wow. This is definitely one series that I will definitely rewatch like over and over. Like I'm probably going to watch it again when I get done with this episode, the show. I'm definitely going to probably, it's one of the things where I'll just probably throw it in the background on the weekend or something, while I'm doing other stuff, because it's great. I loved it. Then of course, I gotta say, two other surprises, real quick. Well, two topics. One, I gotta talk about Beru a little bit. Man, she is in the actress that plays Beru. Her name is Bonnie. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Bonnie Paisi. But anyway, she played her obviously in episode 2 and episode 3. Episode 3 just being that brief scene at the end, the closing shot, the binary suns. And so I don't even think she had a line except hello that she said to Padme and Anakin in episode 2. Like, I really don't think she spoke a line. And man, she got a chance to shine in this. And again, she's actually seems like a very powerful character. Bonnie did a great job with her. I felt like she did a great job with her because, again, that determination, that protection, those are definitely qualities that you will see in Luke, right? So it's not that he's getting raised necessarily just by farmers, but he's being raised by two quality people. You have the Organas that are basically royalty on Alderaan, and Leia's getting that side of training, those qualities from Bail and his wife and what it means to represent in a political capacity. But then you've got Luke that is truly getting raised by two really good people as well. Very protective, very strong-willed, very determined, very motivating, by what they need to do with their lives and what they need to do with their farm. I mean, it's great qualities to teach a kid. So both of these kids, Leia and Luke, we're seeing them getting, seeing how they're being raised by them. And that was great of Ben or Obi-Wan to say at the end, I don't necessarily have to keep tabs on him. He's in good hands, and he is. So I thought that was really cool. And I think that really helps sell the fact that Luke becomes such a quality person when you see him in A New Hope. Beru, like I said, Bonnie, who played Beru, and this was phenomenal. I thought I was very happy for her to be able to come back and do that. And then, of course, we've got two cameos here that really were pretty cool. One was Ian McDermott coming back as the Emperor. That was pretty cool to see in that scene. And then the very end, we get the return of Obi-Wan's master, Qui-Gon Jinn, by Liam Neeson. Looked exactly like he did in episode 1. The only thing I've got to figure out about this, and of course, this live action series could retcon what's in the novels, but I believe that Qui-Gon was not supposed to be able to, manifest himself. like that. I was under the impression, and the knowledge I have is that he didn't finish the training. I believe that's what he was telling Yoda in the Clone Wars, that he couldn't finish it, so he wanted Yoda to finish it. And then, of course, he trained Obi-Wan on it. But that's how they're able to be Force spirits. And Qui-Gon was not. But Qui-Gon could speak from the cosmic force, but just not manifest himself. So this changes a little bit of that. Now, I could be wrong about that, what I've researched and read, but I'm pretty sure about that. In fact, I'm pretty sure that in a certain point of view, the novel there, that I think I have to go back, but I think there's a conversation in there also about him not being able to manifest himself. So that would kind of retcon that storyline. And we'd be stuck with now just wondering, how did he do it? How did Qui-Gon do it when he didn't complete the training? So, but that I love seeing it. I'm sure, are they definitely going to probably come up with an explanation for it? Of course they will. But until then, I'll just enjoy it and love seeing Liam Neeson come back as Qui-Gon. So, and then of course he rides into the sunset. It was just, again, phenomenal series. Loved every minute of it. We'll again watch more of it in the coming weeks, months. Just something I'll just keep going back to for sure. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, or send me an email or text, or hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what you thought about it. But before I leave here, let's wrap up with some comments that I apologize, haven't looked in a while. But let's go back to let's see. My last episode, 360, Jojo just says, awesome, thank you. Thrawn Addict said, great video once again, looking forward to the merch. Awesome, I'll get you some merch, Thrawn Addict. And would love an Inside the Force t-shirt. Really enjoyed episode 4 of Kenobi. Definitely has its issues, but I think if you're a fan of Fallen Order, you will enjoy it. Watching Obi-Wan getting his groove back was cool, and definitely had some cool action moments. Just concerned that we have 2 episodes left and not enough time to fit everything in, like flashbacks, more Hayden and Qui-Gon moments, and don't like these episodes becoming quite short. Totally agree. At the time, again, sorry, this Thrawn was responding to episode 360, where I just talked about part 4. Well, we ended up getting Hayden, and we ended up getting Qui-Gon. So hopefully you were happy about that. Thrawn also mentions one plot hole in this episode, though. I do wonder why Reva doesn't sense that Leia's Force sensitive. Surely she would notice that when trying to read her mind. I don't know if she would or not, because the thing about it is Leia doesn't know, so she's not even knowing that she can use the Force. I think she was just trying to resist, and the Force kind of helped her with that. Now, yes, could Reva sense that? I guess it really depends on how knowledgeable Reva is with the Force. I mean, she might be skilled at using it, but does she really understand it? And, I know Kylo tried that on Rey, and in that movie, he mentions, she's strong in the Force. I think he came to that conclusion just because he couldn't read her mind. Yes, so maybe Reva could have and should have, but, maybe she did and she just didn't mention it. But you're right. I think she probably should have sensed something there. The Obi-Wan Anakin comic that we did on Beyond the Saga, Hannah and I Thrawn Addict said, great review. Love this volume and one of the great canon graphic novels I read. Great to see any Star Wars set between episode 1 and 2, which you don't get a lot of. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Need to get more of that. All right. So that is it for this episode. Really, really appreciate you guys. Again, we are on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/InsideTheForce if you want to check out our tiers and sign up to get all of our episodes early, as well as bonus content and some merch, especially some new merch that's going to be coming out soon. Mandalore podcast, where we deep dive in all the Disney Plus shows. Go check that out. And then, of course, all of our other shows, Council Sessions, Beyond the Saga, Masters of the Order, and Dark Knowledge. Got a great long interview coming from Masters of the Order. I think I'm going to be splitting it up into actually 2 or 3 parts. It was so big, so look for that. That'll probably come out next week. The first part of it will. Got some Beyond the Sagas already in the can. Got some Dark Knowledge that me and Corey are going to be doing, so look for more of those. And then, of course, Council Sessions. Got a lot of big questions that need to be answered, especially from the Obi-Wan series. That probably be the focus the next couple weeks. So, InsideTheForce.com or get us on YouTube, youtube.com/InsideTheForce. Hit that subscribe button. And then, of course, you can listen to us on any podcast feed out there. But if you can, please, I don't really ask much of this, but if you can, leave us a rating on, any of your podcast platforms so we can kind of spread the word a little bit more. And, of course, send anybody you can over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. We're slowly growing that. Again, haven't been too worried about it, but just love seeing more people coming and joining and subscribing and getting in on the conversation. So hope that continues. Got a lot more Star Wars going to talk about here soon in the coming months, years. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great ride. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again for watching. Don't have another show to look forward to, but we got a lot of Star Wars stuff coming, so lots of stuff to talk about. I will see you guys next week. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you keep enjoying Star Wars. Take care, everybody. May the Force be with you.